Imagine a trusted nurse who is dedicated to caring for vulnerable infants, being led away in handcuffs, accused of murdering 7 of her patients. Today we're delving into the troubling case of Lucy Letby, a 33-year-old nurse who is charged with the unthinkable crime of murder. Before we explore the various motives behind Lucy Letby's actions, let's take a quick recap of what happened. Between 2015 and 16, Letby worked at the Counties of Chester Hospital neonatal unit, where she cared for the most critically ill of babies. Doctors became concerned by the rise in deaths and injuries in the neonatal unit, and this prompted them to conduct an internal inquiry. Lucy Letby was identified as the one common factor in all the deaths and injuries. This resulted in the removal of Letby from clinical duties while police investigated the unexplained deaths and injuries. In November 2020, Lucy Letby was charged with 7 counts of murder and 6 counts of attempted murder. She was subsequently found guilty and is now serving a whole of life sentence at Low Newton High Security Prison for Women in Durham, England. Lucy Letby is now considered one of the UK's most prolific serial killer of children of all time. So why did Lucy Letby murder, and what drove her to commit such heinous crimes? Well, the prosecution at the trial provided several different explanations, and that's what we're going to delve into next. Following that, we'll explore some expert analysis on Lucy Letby's mental state. One of the main arguments of the prosecution was that Letby killed babies to gain the attention of a married doctor with whom she was romantically involved. Letby completely denied having any sort of romantic feelings towards him, but I think there's clear evidence of a relationship. For example, they exchanged texts with love heart emojis, and they also were known to meet outside of work. It turns out that the same doctor who Letby was involved with was also contacted when babies deteriorated in the neonatal unit. And that is interesting in itself, because Letby and the doctor continued to meet up even after other doctors alleged that she had caused the deaths of other infants in the neonatal unit. Another motive that the prosecution raised was that they thought she was playing God. They suggested that Letby enjoyed exerting power and control over infants, and in fact probably everybody else in the unit. By harming infants and being the first to identify an issue, Letby exerted control not just over the infant's fate, but perhaps also derived some form of satisfaction of being able to manipulate and direct others to saving the infant's life. The prosecution suggested that Letby obtained pleasure from being the first to tell others that the infant was deteriorating. The next motive that prosecution suggested was she enjoyed the thrill. She gained a high degree of satisfaction from witnessing the grief of parents as they learned the passing of their newborn. For example, the parents of child I, who died after repeated attacks by Letby, told police they remember Lucy Letby smiling and going on about how she was present at child I's first bath and how much she loved it. However, Lucy Letby completely denies gaining any pleasure from seeing the suffering of others. The fourth motive that the prosecution put forward was that Letby was simply bored because she found less challenging assignments to be unstimulating. She made it clear to others, and in fact to her supervisor, that she only wanted to work and care for babies in the intensive care unit. The fifth and final motive put forward by the prosecution was that Letby had feelings of inadequacy, and this was revealed in some handwritten notes. On one posted note, she wrote, "I'm evil, I did this," which is the closest Letby came to making an admission of guilt. She also wrote, "I don't deserve to live. I killed them on purpose because I'm not good enough to care for them. I will never marry or have children. I will never know what it's like to have a family." Letby told the court that the notes were written after she was suspended from work pending an investigation. and this was just revealing the ramblings of her mental anguish following the deaths of the babies in her care. But I think this motive neatly fits into our psychological analysis of Lucy Letby. Dr. Dominic Wilmont, a criminologist from the University of Labour, has also studied similar cases like this, and in his analysis of healthcare professionals who harm patients, particularly children, they often have a recurring theme. He believes these acts may be driven by a pathological need for attention and sympathy arising from the perpetrator's involvement in patient care. He also suggests there is a complex interaction between this and the history of a personality disorder and characteristics which are often found in highly sadistic and narcissistic as described by those who knew them. Well, let's unpack that statement because there's a lot there. What Dr. Wilmont is saying is that there is an interaction between the need for attention and sympathy by the perpetrator, and in this case Lucy Letby, and also having a personality disorder. However, this situation is not a simple cause and effect, because what Dr. Wilmont is suggesting is the possibility of a pre-existing personality disorder before any crimes were committed. And although he doesn't say so, it could be that this personality disorder was undiagnosed. Dr. Wilmont suggests that these acts may be linked to the personality disorder, which is characterised by sadism and narcissistic traits. In psychological terms, of course, sadism refers to deriving pleasure from inflicting pain on others, while narcissistic traits describes someone who has an inflated sense of self-importance, a deep need for admiration, but a lack of empathy for others. He goes on to say that these traits may not have been readily apparent to everyone, but people who knew Lucy may have noticed these tendencies. And this makes perfect sense when you consider some of the texts that were released at trial. It's clear that Letby tried to garner sympathy from her colleagues following the deaths of children she was caring for. Supporting this is, of course, the other evidence that she had repeatedly been asked to focus on other patients around the time of the deaths of other babies and passing on death notifications to family members, which seemed to indicate her desire to be personally involved in the case, even when it was likely this could raise suspicions about her involvement. In a similar vein, Dr. Mark Feldman, a clinical professor of psychology, cited that women who murder are more likely to suffer from a fictitious disorder such as Munchausen syndrome. So what is Munchausen syndrome? Well, the syndrome is named after Baron Munchausen, a German nobleman who became famous for telling wildly exaggerated and fantastical stories about his life and adventures. His tales were often featured him escaping dangerous situations or performing incredible feats. Fast forward to the 1950s, and a British psychiatrist named Richard Asher noticed a pattern in some of his patients. These patients were fabricating illnesses and symptoms in themselves, called Munchausen syndrome, or someone they cared for, which is known as Munchausen syndrome by proxy. Remember, Baron Munchausen had a reputation for telling tall tales, and it was this that prompted Dr. Asher to call the condition Munchausen syndrome, highlighting the fabricated nature of the illnesses. So, back to today. Munchausen's by proxy, or what it's known by today as fictitious disorder, is considered a form of mental illness as well as a form of abuse perpetrated by women, usually against a child. It's a complex disorder with motivations that we really don't fully understand. Dr. Feldman says the goal of someone suffering from Munchausen's by proxy is not to murder or even permanently harm a child, but to manipulate others into giving them attention or sympathy. He suggests that some of the perpetrators may even engage in actions that could be perceived as an attempt to outsmart other healthcare professionals, And it's this behaviour that could potentially provide the perpetrator with a sense of control over the situation. Dr. Feldman also mentions that some individuals who engage in this type of behaviour may seek external validation, such as excitement or praise, in especially stressful situations where they're being observed by others. In terms of Lucy Letby, Dr. Feldman noted that she knew what she was doing and had the goal of severely harming or killing children, showing a lack of insight into the why of her behaviour. In that sense, he said it can be a compulsive or even addictive behaviour. So this raises a difficult question. Did Lucy Letby become a nurse and enter the healthcare profession so she could kill? We will never know the answer to this question unless one person, Lucy Letby, tells us the answer. I think the Lucy Letby case raises some critical questions about preventing tragedies in healthcare settings. It highlights the importance of two key areas: robust reporting systems and strong support networks for healthcare workers. If there are any concerns, there should be clear and well-established processes for staff to report any unease they have about patient safety, even if this involves a colleague. And there's also the whistleblowers in this case. They should expect to have safeguards to prevent any form of retaliation, and they should be able to raise their concerns in good faith. Ensuring clear protocols and strong support systems are crucial for fostering a culture of patient safety and open communication. Open communication allows healthcare workers to seek help before a crisis occurs or even escalates. Before I finish, I think it's important to remember that cases like Lucy Letby are extremely rare. The vast majority of healthcare professionals are dedicated to helping others. I think by openly discussing these sensitive topics, we can gain valuable insight and work towards creating a safer environment for both patients and medical professionals. If you found this video informative, please give it a thumbs up. It helps a lot, and leave a comment below. And remember to subscribe for more content like this. Until next time, take care.